Hello and welcome to our webinar today, our live Q&A on Business Zone. I'm Rachel, I'm the small business editor of the site, and this is a live Q&A with experts on how you can use your accountant to your advantage. You may have seen on the site during the last few weeks that we've been surveying our members and trying to find out what they want from their accountants. And also we've been running an Ask the Accountant surgery, which one of our attendees today has taken part in, answering all of your questions. So I'll just introduce everyone. This is Sue. Sue is from Cashflow. Hi, Sue.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you, and very delighted to be part of the Business Zone.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. And next we've got Ralph. Ralph is from the Creative Grid. Hey,
hello.
Ralph.
Hi.
Brilliant. And we've got Mary, who is the accountant who has been answering all of our questions in the Ask the Accountant surgery. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Rachel.
Brilliant. So we've collected all of your questions and we'll be answering them today, basically divided up between the panel. If you want to ask any more questions though, there is a Cover It Live box just below this video. You can type your question in there or you can tweet us at BusinessZone and we'll get your questions and we'll be able to get to them too. It'll last about half an hour to 45 minutes or so, and yeah, make sure and get involved. So we're going to crack on with the first question, and I'm going to ask Mary this one. So how did you find the caliber of questions asked in the Ask the Accountant surgery?
Yeah, it was really interesting. There were a lot of questions that came through, which the sources are out there, plenty of information out there for businesses. But it was interesting to see that businesses Q&A quite confusing out there. There is a lot of information, and one of the roles of an accountant nowadays is to be more of a mentor and a guide for those sort of questions about setup, taxes, and things like that. So it was good to see that people were finding a way through to actually get some positive the answers that would help them set up the business in the way that they might want to pursue. So yeah, it was very interesting to see what people were asking us.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Mary, and thanks very much for being a part of that too. And alongside the surgery, as I mentioned, we did run a survey which ran for a couple of weeks and basically asked everyone kind of, what you want from your accountant, how you interact with them, what they could be doing more of. And one of the stats that came out of it was that 34% of, we also ran one on Accounting Web, which is our sister site, and accountants answered the questions in this one. So 34% of accountants said they ask clients about strategic objectives and performance indicators. So how important is this to clients? I'm going to start off with you, Sue. What do you think?
So I think it's very important for businesses to be able to keep a handle on their finances. I mean, we see that in cash flow, that customers are coming to us because they want to be able to see their business KPIs live in real time. So how much money they have coming into the business and how much money they're spending, so that they can keep control. And I think working with their accountants, certainly with our system, we find that accountants are able to give that advice in real time rather than having to wait till either the end of the quarter or the end of the year to see what state the business is in.
That's fantastic, thanks, Sue. And as a small business owner, Ralph, what's your opinion on it? How important is it to you that accountants provide these kind of, strategic objectives for you?
I think what's interesting is from a small business point of view, you're kind of out there trying to sell, trying to service your clients, trying to win new business. You're probably, certainly in my case, I run a video agency, you're probably working a lot of hours as well, and you're trying to juggle staff. And when you have those conversations about your business, or in fact when you log into cash flow and you can see how your sales have performed this month compared to last month, it's almost like it's a breath of fresh air, because my accountant is Murray, who's on the call, but when I talk to him, it's like he's part of my business, because he already knows some of the things that have happened through my accounts and through those conversations. So it's almost like a much more intelligent conversation, and I have to think back to when I used to do things the old way, because now I'm just used to talking about, our sales. For example, August is a relatively quiet month in the video industry. Now it's crazy again because everybody's back at work and has got events. Murray just knows that, and I just kind of assume that he understands my business, which of course all comes from these tools.
That's fantastic. Thanks very much for that. And Mary, what do you find that you kind of ask your clients? Obviously, as Ralph said, you probably do, but do you ask clients about their strategic objectives and performance indicators, and do you kind of help them with that side of the business too?
Yeah, we take quite a strategic consultation sort of role with our clients when we first start with them. We work out what their objectives are, and that's how we engage with our clients. We actually try and take a collaborative role in the success of that business, and we do that with the tool we work with, like Cashflow, so we can all see the same view of the. When we do talk to each other, we're talking off the same page, so it's massively important. And the beauty of it is that the software doesn't actually feel like an accounting tool. It's a tool that's there to run the business and collects a lot of data, so the sort of information that falls out is massively helpful in that decision-making process.
That's fantastic. Thanks very much for that. And to kind of follow on with another statistic from our small business survey, to get financial advice, 31% of small businesses, which is the largest amount of the group, said they go to their accountants first for financial advice. And then I think 23% said they would go to Google, and then another 23% said they'd go to kind of somewhere else, another source. But do you think this is kind of how it should be? Should clients be going to their accountants first and foremost? And why do you think that is, Sue?
So I think it is absolutely appropriate that small businesses go to their accountants, and I think you're seeing the partnership between the small business and the accountant. And I think Murray mentioned, mentioned that there was a change in the way that people worked with their accountants, and that gives a lot more time for an accountant to be giving that kind of business advice versus rekeying receipt information to get to final set of accounts. So I think in the world we work in today, new businesses are springing up all the time, and they need that financial advice right from the beginning when they get going, all the way through the life cycle. And who better than their accountant to provide that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ralph, would you go to your accountant first of all? Would that be the first place you go for financial advice?
Yeah, I think that the two top answers are probably where I would go. I mean, we obviously in my industry, I guess it's the same for other people. I work with a lot of other filmmakers, a lot of other video producers, so we're always talking about things. But for example, in the next year, we've got a huge amount of change from a compliance point of view with new rules from HMRC, new ways of getting money out of the business, things like dividend tax changing. So it's important to use the tools and the people that you've got, because I come back to my previous point, which is, I want to be out there making videos and selling and working with my clients. I don't want to have to spend hours understanding detail in an area that's not my field of expertise. So that's why I call Murray.
That's fantastic. And Murray, do you find that a lot of your clients come to you first of all when they need something financial?
Yeah. We're getting more of it because there, and when the government announces a change in legislation, or you see something in the newspapers, it's often quite vague, because underneath that level of presentation, there's a lot of detail. We pick up on that, and it's better to do that over the phone, face to face, to try and see your clients for their personal circumstance. So yeah, we're getting more and more, and our role is becoming very
Brilliant. Yeah, it is quite a changing landscape at the moment. So another statistic that came out, which was very interesting, that I found, was about 40% nearly of small businesses said they want more advice on money-saving ideas from their accountants and business strategy, and a further 22% want advice or support on how to grow. So is this kind of something that most accountants would already provide? I guess this is a two-part question, and if not, if you are a small business and you need that from your accountant, how would you go about getting it, or how would you go about changing your accountant? Murray, I'm going to ask you again, what do you think of this?
It's hard to say what most accountants would do, because we're just one of many. It's something that we do, and during our research before the practice, we actually looked at what accountants actually do. We all do compliance, and that's an expectation. We might expect annual returns, annual accounts, tax computations, that's all. So we do something a little bit different to add a bit more value to our clients. I personally feel all accountants should be doing it, but I know from my own experience of networking and talking to the competition, it's not always there. Yeah, I think that approach is needed to help those businesses grow. At the end of the day, if we don't help them grow, and if that business fails, we've effectively lost a client. It is in our own interest to help our clients.
Mm-hmm. Yes, fantastic. And Ralph, do you think that is that something you could do? Is kind of growth factored in your plans for 2016, or what do you need kind of help with most of all?
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody who says that the growth isn't in their plans isn't running a very good business, I suppose. But I mean, we're cloud-based. I mean, our video team are scattered across mainly Europe and the US. That's where our clients are. So we're a heavy user of technology. And I think that comes back to the way cash flow and accountants like Murray who've adopted cloud accounting software work. You know, because I mean, even as I talk to you, I have another client on chat asking me about things that are going on. It's kind of a multitasking world which involves this technology, and the idea of going backwards to not knowing now what I could potentially do in the future. Or not knowing exactly my financial position feels like the kind of 1990s. So this is the only way that we can make things work, particularly with travel. We're always out on the road. And I think your earlier question about can you switch accountants, I have switched accountants. I met Murray through Cashflow. Murray's based in South Wales. I am actually in Suffolk this morning. That's where I live, but my business is based in London. And we operate just fine. We use Google Hangout, which is what we're on now, and we've met twice, I think, Murray, haven't we? Once was at Iris World a couple of days ago. So it can work.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's really, really good insight. And is this something as well you're seeing, Sue, kind of at Iris and at Cashflow, that a lot more small businesses that your kind of software users, that they're looking for growth, they're looking for money saving ideas, or what do you see?
Absolutely, and I think one of the things we've seen as well is that small businesses, one of the big challenges that they face is getting paid on time. I think if you looked at technology, there are some amazing advances in technology that allow us to help customers get paid more on time. So as a money-saving idea, for example, we're looking at doing things like adding invoice payment buttons so that when a customer opens an invoice, they can actually press the Get Paid Now button. And so it's those kinds of initiatives that we see our customers really looking for in order to improve the way that they do business and help them get paid faster, for example.
Wow, yeah, some really, really interesting insights there from you all. Thanks very much for those. And there's some user questions coming in. Thanks very much. So kind of keep them coming in through the Cover It Live panel below. I'm going to ask them after kind of we're finished with these other user questions that we've gathered. But I guess one question that might come out of this is, if you're a small business and if you need these certain things from your accountant and they're not providing them, how as a small business can you determine if your accountant is right for you? I'm going to start with you, Ralph. Kind of how did you, because you made the switch already, how did you, in your mind, start thinking, oh, this isn't right, I need something different?
I think, first of all, if you get inside the minds of people like me and hopefully some of the other people that are watching, we're not thinking about accounting every day. And there tends to be certain points in the calendar that remind us that we do have to worry about it. Either business events that happen, we want to hire somebody, we want to borrow money, something like that, or it's the end of year, and then it's when your corporation tax, or your annual return is due. And if you look at your accountant and you don't know the position that you're in, so I think first of all dealing with the kind of old Excel view of the world. I had a great accountant 10 years ago who helped me start my business, but he didn't know how to use Excel properly and would print everything out. And so I very quickly realized this is probably not going to work for me. I then tried an online account provider with Sage back in the day. And that was okay at first, but then it didn't expand to some of the things that Sue's talked about. So it didn't give me the ability for people to pay, which is an issue because I don't want to have to spend my time chasing people. I know it's a fact of life. It didn't give me a kind of, I didn't have any reporting about how my business was or how healthy it was, some of the reports that are in cash flow. And eventually, thanks to Iris and Cashflow, I met Murray, as I mentioned, and we talked about his background, which is very similar to mine. So it's very IT-centric. He's much more of a consultant kind of accountant. Obviously, there is a value and a price, like everything, that you've got to buy into. I just find it much easier to be talking to my accountant about real business issues than about, oh, have you heard about this new thing called Twitter or Instagram, or which is some of the conversations I've had in the past where I'm like, really, I need to talk about the business decisions that I've got. And I think also he's, I don't want to blow smoke too much in Murray's direction, but he is on the call. But the fact that I can just do a hangout like this saves me time. And that's really important to me. So I happen to probably be at the bleeding edge of using every bit of technology I can. But I think a lot of people are like me, and it works for me. So if any of those things are not working for you, you should think about a change, is my advice.
Very good advice. Thanks very much, Ralph. And Mary, what do you think? You must see kind of, obviously, clients coming to you from other accountants. What reasons have they given for the move, and how can a small business determine if someone isn't right for them?
Yes, so there's a number of factors, price being the main one. We do work with it for good reason. Not only does it give our clients the right tools to help run their business, but we actually lean heavily on technology, which frees up a lot of time and therefore cost at our end. So we pass those savings onto our clients. So that part of it. So when people actually talk to us and get quotes, they're actually amazed. The other one is I can talk to them about business. I have run a small business in the past. It was a consultancy business. So I do talk to a lot of consultant type businesses and work with those very closely. So in terms of setting those up on them, I've for them, that they just see that model being set up for them, and they just focus on where they earn their money, which is in the field working with their clients. So at the end of the day, it is sometimes a tough decision to make, and sometimes companies don't often want to work with somebody as technology focused as we are. But times are changing. There's more and more of them coming up, and like I said, if you want to work with a traditional accountant, then there probably is a price in terms of they do. Mm-hmm. It does offer lots and lots of benefits rather than just the technology itself.
Yeah, definitely. Great points. And Sue, I don't know what you think of this as well. As small businesses, how can they determine kind of what you could add to what Murray and Ralph have said about how to determine if someone is right for you?
I think the key thing you see is whether or not that accountant's going to work in the way that you want to work as a small business. And I think you see, lots of new businesses starting up. They haven't necessarily got any old infrastructure. They're not using anything today, and therefore they're starting afresh. And so we actually see a lot of our clients coming to us first and introducing their accountant to us, because they're the ones that are driving the innovation, and they want to work with an accountant that has that same view around collaboration so that they can work together on their accounts.
That's fantastic. And there's a question as well. I know some people and some small businesses are kind of scared by the prospect of changing accountants. They might think it's quite a difficult thing to do, like switching a bank account or something. But actually, in reality, how easy is it, Murray?
So it's probably a better question for a small business like Ralph to answer.
Okay.
For us, but I'll just add a little bit more to that. It is actually, for us, it's really easy. All we need is a few basic bits of information, the HMRC unique taxpayers references, things, house authentication codes, and the name of the previous accountant, and that's it really. From then on, it's down to us to follow up and get previous accounts or register as their agent, and that's it, done and dusted. The hardest thing is from the small business perspective. So it's good to hand over to Ralph.
Yeah, it was pretty easy for me. I mean, I think because I'd made the switch from offline to cloud accounting a while back, and then I switched to cash flow and to Murray about 18 months ago. And I mean, as Murray said, he asked me for certain bits of information. When things come through, like my accounts for approval, it's all done through a secure space that he's set up with Cashflow and Iris. And that's also an important point. You know, I don't have the option really for lots of paper, well, no more than I need to for HMRC. And the fact that all of this is online, it's in the cloud, it's backed up. I've never had an issue with downtime when I've wanted to use Cashflow or find out certain things. So yeah, in terms of switching, it was painless. And in fact, I was talking to a camera operator that works with me quite a lot a couple of days ago, and he was saying his accountant, he's frustrated because it's been his end of year. He's waiting for his accounts. He wants to know how he did. And the accountant told him, well, you've got 6 months to file with Companies House. And he was like, yeah, no, but can I have my account soon? And this guy apparently said to him, well, no, we've got 6 months. You can have it when I'm ready, which is an incredible thing for somebody to say to their client. But I can remember those sorts of conversations where it would be, you know, I want to know how my business is doing, and now I do. Whereas this friend of mine is still in the dark ages, unfortunately.
That's really insightful. Thanks so much for that. So yeah, I think the next one might be a good question for you to start off on, Sue, actually. And it's kind of around, you know, getting the most out of your relationship with your accountant as a small business. So how can businesses kind of maximise this or bring it to its full potential? What do you think?
I think, you know, what we're seeing is today the amount of collaboration with the kind of tools that we have in the market. So small businesses are able to collaborate in real time, as Ralph said, over their accounts. So it's no longer a relationship where it's once a year at the end of the year. It's an ongoing relationship, which is much more strategic in terms of providing business advice on an ongoing basis versus very transactional once at the end of the year. So I think that's how you get the best out of your accountant, is that level of collaboration, deep collaboration.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. And Ralph, what would you say the best thing is for you about, you know, Murray being your accountant? You know, how do you kind of maximise relationship? Is it merely keeping in touch, or is it more than that?
I mean, often when we talk, we had a chat yesterday because we knew this was coming up, and often it is about business and growth, both his business and mine. So we're in completely different sectors. I'm a client of his, but Murray also needs to market his business with things like video. And we often end up just having a chat and kind of almost, as business owners often do, if you belong to a chamber of commerce or other networks, a lot of it is kind of supporting each other with the highs and lows of business. And it's, sorry, I just dropped my microphone. I mean, I think that probably says everything about my relationship, that it's not just a very formal transactional kind of, you know, did you fill this form in, which typically I wouldn't really understand. You know, I mean, I think HMRC has come a long way over the years. It's a lot more digital. There's still some way to go, particularly with national insurance contributions and that kind of area. But the conversations I have with my accountant are much more about what I'm doing, how did it go since last time, and he seems to know as well what I've been doing. So it just feels like a more personal conversation, which is what you want.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. And what do you think, Ralph?
Yeah, sorry, was that aimed at me? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. No, that's not Ralph. Murray, apologies about that. Yeah, no, I was just going to say, what do you think, Murray? How can businesses kind of, how would you like clients to kind of get the most out of their relationship with you? Would you like them to be asking certain questions or doing certain things? What do you think about that?
It's all about communicating. You know, we work with clients all over the UK, and we talk to them all the time. We're busy. We have work to do. We've got jobs to do. But part of our job is to communicate with our clients to find out what their needs are. And our most recent hire was it's a job title that we made up because we try to be a little bit creative. So we are creative accountants from a legal perspective, and we The new job we hired for was a customer experience director. Now that is all about our customers, very customer oriented, and for us, we want to stay in touch with our customers and find what we do. Get involved with their social media. We do keep an eye on what they're doing, activities they've got going on, and we try and help them. Work. We are within their business. That's something that we should be doing it for a small business. And we see the value of some of these activities. So we'd be failing our clients and therefore failing ourselves. It's massively important to understand all the elements of what our clients are up to.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks very much for that, Mary. And we're on to the very last of our our curated questions. We've got quite a few actually from the audience, and you've been great asking questions. So please continue. But the last question's around around the cloud and around like local accountants. So kind of which is better, a local, easily accessible accountant, or maybe a mediocre one that's far away, or the local one that's kind of quite mediocre, or another one that's far away but really amazing. So how can cloud kind of make things easier for businesses, or can it? I'm going to start with you, Sue.
So, I think Ralph's already mentioned that having an accountant on the end of a hangout, or being able to work with them collaboratively over the internet. I think that in this day and age, finding the accountant that suits you with the right skills and that suits your way of working is more important. I mean, we've seen some of our partners who have almost a separate brand, so they have an in a town office where people can come in, but they're also now setting up separate businesses to do cloud. And I think what we're also seeing is partners like Murray, who has clearly developed cloud as part of his overall accounting service that he provides to his customer, and that's where we see more and more accountants going over time.
Thanks very much, Sue. And Ralph, I guess, what do you think about about this whole thing? Kind of.
I don't think anybody says, can I have a pint of mediocre, please? So I suppose we're always going to go for the best that we can. I mean, it depends what works for you. I am aware that a lot of businesses that we film for or that we know, perhaps that are more cash intensive in particular. They prefer that relationship where the accountant can come into their business and if they've got a shop or they've got a pub or something like that. For me, as I say, video production network, obviously maybe not obviously, but the cloud is the way to go. It's not just communication, which is important to me. It's the real-time nature. It's the fact that things are backed up. I mean, I also use some of the plugins or the partners of cash flow. So I use Receipt Bank heavily, for instance, to photograph my receipts. It just means that I've got less to worry about. If I'm on a shoot in another country, I can photograph the receipts and I can, to a large extent, forget about it. And then, when it comes to the bookkeeping, it's made a lot easier. Also, things like the way it can kind of integrate with my bank account, so it can match transactions for reconciliation. So I think local versus cloud, I happen to be an example where cloud accountants, as in my accountant, even though Suffolk is beautiful, Murray is not going to pop round tomorrow because he's in South Wales. And you know what? That's okay. I actually happen to get on very well with Murray, but some of the accountants in the past, I wouldn't want them to pop round. But I think it's really up to you, but I'm an example of where this can work.
That's brilliant. And what do you think, finally, Mary, about, is local best, or is it okay to kind of use the cloud to provide a better service from afar away?
Yeah, it all depends on the client at the end of the day. Obviously, I'd love to sit here and say cloud is perfect, but it is down to those individuals. Our model works. We work with clients all over the UK, so we're a good example of it, of that cloud model actually working in practice. And that's the way we chose to set up our practice. We do work locally as well, so down here in South West Wales, we have we go and visit them more so than our clients in London, for example. But sometimes as part of the job we have to travel around,
Yeah.
and what we try to do is try and include client visits as part of that. So we do try and stay in touch physically as well as through technology, but the technology just break those geographical barriers right down, so there isn't a need for us to do if we didn't need to, if we just don't need to do that.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Cool, brilliant. Excellent answers. Thank you so much, everyone, for those. They were the last of our curated questions, but as I said, we have been getting some in via the Cover It Live box. So we've picked out the 4 best ones, and we're going to have a look at those now, if that's okay. So we're going to start off with a nice, easy one. It's how often should I talk to my accountant? So, Mary, I'm going to go back to you again and say, how often do you think is a good time, or a good period of time?
You should talk to your accountant whenever you need to talk to your accountant. If you've got a concern or a worry, there should be no reason why you shouldn't pick up the phone and get their advice. I suppose it's into how they operate. So if they're on a meter and you pick up the phone and you start to get charged from the second that they start talking to them, obviously it does disincentivize clients to contact their accountant. That is an old school model.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our clients do just pick up the phone and talk to us, and with Helen on board, who is the experience director, she fields a lot of those calls, and if there's questions that she can answer, she will. They may just be general business questions, or if they're more technical accounting questions, then they come through to me, and the other accountants in the team. So it should be whenever you should have somebody there to answer it, because as we saw from the Q&A online, sometimes the internet can be confusing, so it's always better to talk to a person.
That's fantastic. And what do you think, Sue, from Cashwell's point of view? How often should you be speaking to your accountant, and I guess as well, what's the best way to contact them?
So I think Murray's probably the best position to answer that. So we don't. I think the best way to contact them is whichever works best for the client. So I think what we see with our clients is that they're actually collaborating both on the telephone but also across their accounts. And they're actually increasingly going for all sorts of advice. And what we've noticed with small businesses is that whenever there's a regulatory change, maybe something like auto-enrollment, which is going to affect a vast number of the small businesses in the UK over the next 2 years, they are also contacting their accountants about those type of things as well.
Oh, brilliant. That's fantastic. Thanks so much both for answering that question for me. The next one I'm going to aim at you, Ralph. So this is, as a small business owner, where is the best place for an accountant? And I think that means where's the best place to find one. So what do you think?
Good question. I mean, there are. In my case, there are forums online for video editors, so particularly on Facebook, but LinkedIn and Google+. There is a directory that Cashflow provide. There are 4 or 5 accounting software providers in the UK, but I think there is room for perhaps a Chamber of Commerce or somebody like that to have some kind of rating system about accountants as well. I suppose the best answer I can give you, which is kind of how it works for me, is just talk to other business owners that you get on with, whether they're in your industry or they're suppliers or friends or whatever. Because a lot of the issues that we all face are very similar, as I'm sure whoever asked the question knows. So there isn't a place that I know that you go to, but I've been with Murray for 18 months and I'm quite happy with him, and I know there are others that do a similar thing to Murray as well.
Oh, fantastic. And it's funny you mentioned about the rating system as well, because we do have another question from a lady called Jane. So basically she read on Accounting Web recently about a service called Vouched For, which is kind of a marketplace for accountants, and you can rate your accountant. It's kind of like TripAdvisor for accountants. And her question was, you can't beat the more traditional personal kind of referrals, so should you go based on like an online tool or just a traditional word-of-mouth referral? What do you think, Mary?
We all know the press that things like TripIt and Vouched For get. It's a good window for people to put bad reviews about you. we're not on any of those. We do heavily rely on word of mouth, and that is by far our best marketing tool. And what I would say to anybody out there is speak to your network. You know, if you do join a networking group in your local area, there will be accountants not too far away. You know, every one of those businesses will be working with an accountant, so they may be able to point you in their direction. I would say have a chat, talk to the accountant about what they can offer, and certainly get the price and make sure that it's affordable, it's fair, and that they are using technology, because you know the technology is the key to this. It is a little bit of a big data hub for your business, and if you've got that tool in place, it will give you so much more insight about your business, and you shouldn't have to wait. So it is key to you know, word of mouth is, as far as I'm concerned, by far the best medium for finding a good accountant.
Excellent. So, Sue, I kind of ask you as well, you know, what's the best place for a small business to find an accountant, or do you even match up any of your users to accountants, or kind of introduce them or anything like that?
We actually have the Find an Accountant directory. So as a partner of Cashflow, if you're an accountant that uses Cashflow, you actually have a listing on that directory that shows what kind of services you as an accountant provide. And if you're a small business looking for an accountant, you can literally go onto Google search and put Find an Accountant, and you'll see the Cashflow Accountant directory will come up there, and that will hopefully, and it will match you with accountants in your area, if that's what works for you best.
Brilliant. Yeah, sounds like a great service, definitely. It's a good one to check out. We'll maybe pop the link in the later article when it goes live. So I've got two kind of quite quick questions left here, and then I'm going to kind of wrap things up. So one of the second last questions are, as a small business owner, you know, what sorts of things should I consult my accountant about on an ongoing basis? So what kind of things should they ask for? Ralph, what do you ask Mary for on an ongoing basis?
I think first one is compliance, so making sure that you've done your accounts, making sure that they've been submitted on time. Then it comes down to kind of business intelligence, so knowing how much tax you owe. For instance, with corporation tax, there are things like R&D tax credits if you're in the tech or kind of development world that you can take advantage of. Then there's kind of personal stuff, so a lot of businesses in the UK, and Sue would probably know more about the numbers of them, but we are a nation of shopkeepers, apparently. And so there are a lot of husband and wife businesses, there are a lot of very small businesses, micro businesses, I think the government calls them. And you know, the question there is then, how do you get the money out of your business if you want to pay yourself effectively? A lot of changes coming over this next year, as I mentioned earlier. And then I think you move, as you mature and you get used to, not you personally, but as you mature with your knowledge of the software, then you become more interested in reporting. And that's kind of where I'm at the moment. So I'm kind of, things like the health of my business, there are some reports on Cashflow that tell me you know, who my top clients are, for instance. It sounds an obvious thing, but when you're out there and you're really busy and you appear to be gainfully employed permanently, you know, with lots of people like we are, sometimes you can forget that you've got a very good client that you haven't spoken to for a couple of months, and perhaps you should. So almost customer relationship management. Then there's planning. You know, as I mentioned earlier, if you want to borrow money, if you're just interested in forecasting, can you afford to take on another member of staff? So there's almost like a life cycle that you go through, but hopefully that's some of the points that I've mentioned that you know, is why you should talk to your accountant.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Ralph. And I suppose, Mary, as well, you know, what would you add to that? What should clients be asking you about on an ongoing basis? Is it pretty much what Ralph said?
Yeah, I'd say that it's important. So if you're a small business as a sole trader, a point where actually more tax efficient to become a limited company. It's those sort of things where you need to be speaking to us as accountants to make sure that we set you up so you can actually get the maximum out of your business. We all know how to run a business, and we want to ensure that the people we work with maximize their return on what they put in. So if you are a sole trader, maybe a company or not, and they can assess you at that point to see if it's going to pay off for you.
That's fantastic. Yeah, cheers. Thanks very much for that, Murray. I'm going to go on to my last question now. So you've got kind of 2 questions left, but they're kind of quite related as well. So Sue, I'm just going to ask you, what do you think about this? So how can my accountant help me grow my business? The other person says my accountant does a little more than help me look after my books. What else are they for? So, how can accountants do more than just look after the books? I suppose we've kind of answered this, but, can they help them with growth plans, and what kind of other services in particular can they offer?
Absolutely, and I'll answer the question Ralph actually mentioned at the end of the last one. According to the Federation of Small Businesses, there's something like 5.2 million businesses in the UK, of which, if you count them by numbers, about 99% are small, medium businesses or sole traders. So you're absolutely right, Ralph. There's a whole range of companies out there, all of them looking for help in terms of finance. So I think it isn't just about doing your books at the end of the year. And we see, being able to collaborate month by month, week by week, and have your accountant be able to dip into your accounts at any point and see how things are going, and hopefully prevent you from getting into a situation where you are going to have problems with a tax man, or they can actually help guide your business as you're growing, and make sure you're compliant and make sure you're getting the best from your business.
That's brilliant. Thanks very much. Ralph, I'm going to go on to you now and ask you kind of pretty much, what kind of accountants help you with more than just the compliance? Is it growth as well, like a growth plan? Have they?
I think
done that for you?
for me, it's just been about being responsive, and it being an intelligent conversation. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of business owners out there who, like me in the past, speak to their accountant and feel like they've got to re-educate them about their business, or that perhaps the terminology that accountants use is so technical that you're almost made to feel like a schoolboy again. In my case, I've been there as well. And the fact of the matter is, the most important thing is your business. That's your livelihood. I mean, I joked with HMRC the other day when I filmed them. Tax shouldn't be taxing, but neither should your accounts. It should be a relatively painless thing to do. We all have to do it. We all have to pay tax, and we're happy to do so. But I don't want it to become my life's work. That's video and filmmaking. So if that kind of appeals to you, that change, then that's why you should be talking to an accountant. And in terms of what questions, I mean, I ran through a whole list of things that's kind of my journey, which I'm sure other people will relate to. But I think probably the first point when you kind of think, maybe I need to change, or maybe I need to move to the cloud, to this approach with cash flow, is when you're out of control, when you don't really know. Can you say today what your cash flow looks like, what your profitability looks like? How do you compare to last year? Do you know that today, or for the last month? If you don't, then you probably should be thinking about making a change.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, everyone. That's a really comprehensive overview, and we've had some great answers and some great kind of feedback as well from everyone. So it's just coming up to 2:45 now, so if you're all happy to kind of wrap it up and call it a day, we'll leave it there, unless there's anything else anyone would like to add. Yep, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for being such great delegates. We've had quite a lot of participation in the chat box below, so thanks everyone for your comments. So I just want to say a final thank you and goodbye to Murray. Thank you so much for helping us with everything and for your insight. Thanks to Ralph for being such a great guest, and thank you so much to Sue as well from Cashflow, who's kind of made all this research possible.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Rachel.
No problem.
Thanks, Rachel.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.